Hello there, c.note here, and welcome to DOPEamine, the show that is all about your mental health, my mental health, mostly about INTPs, personality, creativity. We talk about all sorts of different topics on the podcast, on our platform at DOPEintp.com. We've got courses available for INTPs and for other personality types. I just put up a free course for INTPs called Are You Really an INTP?, which is basically a self-assessment kind of course. It's not a quiz. It's just a series of videos helping you to figure out whether or not you're an INTP for sure. And it'll kind of get you one step closer. I say that the journey of discovering your personality type is going to unveil all sorts of different gifts for you as an INTP or whatever personality type you are. So if that's one method for you to go and explore, then go ahead and do that. And then you can get a glimpse of my teaching style and our ecosystem over at DOPEintp.com. So what I wanted to talk about in this video is I get a lot of comments related to referencing themselves, you as the INTP. I've seen, perhaps you have done this, where you have left a comment saying that I'm an INTP-T or I'm an INTP-A. I forget what A stands for. T is for turbulent. It's based on the 16 personalities representation of types. And then A is for assertive, I think. I'm not positive, but I know that those are meant to be signs of health. And what's interesting for our INTPs is that there is some concern, or really for anybody, there is some concern about whether or not you are a healthy version of your type. I just did a video about what is psychological health or unhealth, and you can get some signs of that in that video. There's also a podcast version of that available, and you can get that through the website at DOPEintp.com. So I want to talk about that T and A aspect of it with the INTP-T and the INTP-A aspect of health for INTPs. So first of all, I want to make note that this is the 16 personalities assessment. This is unique to 16 personalities. And I don't know that other systems, other assessments, other places use that at all. So just know that first and foremost, that is unique to that. And the 16 personalities test incorporates other elements. It's not the official Myers-Briggs type indicator, which is available through the Myers-Briggs Foundation. That's the official assessment. So other tests that you see on other sites are just representations from the person who's created the test. So it's not the official Myers-Briggs, and 16 personalities is also not the official Myers-Briggs. They incorporate some big five elements and other personality systems into their assessments. And, that's not me knocking 16 personalities. I think they're a very successful onboarding tool for so many people to learn about their personality type. So not knocking it by any means. But when it comes to this turbulent or assertive, the T, the dash T or the dash A aspect of this, it's important for you to know as an INTP that your assessment of health is fluid and that you're going to be growing and changing based on a couple of different dynamic factors. Now, there's something I want to talk about in the future. There's a model that I'm kind of working on attached to your awareness as a personality type called YMDE, young, mature, dramatic, or empowered. Now, drama and empowered are in reference to the drama triangle and the empowerment dynamic, two concepts that I've talked about on this YouTube channel, on the podcast a couple of times before. And when I do a full breakdown of this in a future video, we'll go into a deeper dive of what those things actually mean at its 10,000 foot view perspective of what it is. Drama typically means that there's a codependent state, that there's this idea of hero, villain, and victim, and that there's some attachment to another person that requires that attachment for you to feel a sense of self-worth. And now this turbulent aspect of an INTP may be related to that, but it may also be related to you just being young, right? Developing is also like your age is also a factor of development, right? So being young doesn't instantly mean that you're immature. Being young doesn't mean that you're dramatic. Being young just simply means that you're in a certain stage of development. Our prefrontal cortex does not completely develop until our mid-20s. So there's a lot of our lives where we're just throwing spaghetti at the wall. We are experiencing different worldviews through spiral dynamics or the CP levels of awareness through the Enneagram, or Riso and Hudson on the Enneagram have their own levels of awareness, levels of growth. And I think it's important for you to know, as an INTP who is constantly assessing yourself, assessing your beliefs, assessing your logic, and assessing your health, because you want to know if you're a healthy person, and really it's about knowing whether or not you're on the right track. So in my eyes, I define young as under 30. Like under 30 is young and you're still developing. So under 30 in particular, let's say under 20, usually you're trying to develop your dominant function, right? You're mostly focused on that area and trying to see the world through that lens. So for INTPs, that's introverted thinking. You're spending a lot of extra time in introverted thinking. And now I, as a content creator for INTPs, have seen patterns between INTPs, that the younger INTPs are more TI and SI heavy, more introverted thinking and introverted sensing heavy. Or if you're going by the personality hacker terminology, more accuracy or memory related, right? So you're spending more time in that space because you're a developing, growing human being. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just where you spend time. And then in your 20s, you start to develop your extroverted intuition and start to redefine that relationship a little bit. In your 30s, between extroverted intuition and introverted sensing. That's when the maturity starts to come in. So when I talk about youth and maturity, young or mature, I'm simply referring to the building blocks of human development. This is not about how you use your ego. It's not about how you assert yourself. It's simply about your stage of development as a human being. So I'm going to break that down in a future video because I feel like that's important for INTPs to know, especially if you're younger, you're in college, you're in high school, maybe you just got out of college, you're still under 30 and you're still trying to figure out your life, and you're kind of going through all of these ebbs and flows of figuring out your relationship to different people and situations. It does not mean that you're unhealthy. You may just be young and you need to experience more things. And then when it gets to the point where in your 30s, typically, again, I say typically because it's not a hard cutoff, right? It's not exactly at 30. It's just that's kind of the typical. You start to get into this maturing stage of life where you've had a lot of experience with your intuition, and now you're trying to redefine the relationship between your intuition and sensing. So your sensing is, which you've had more time with as a kid, before you were 20 years old, typically, you're now starting to redefine that relationship between that young side of you and now this mature side of you that is allowing your intuition to be in the front seat of your cognitive stack of your car model, which we'll talk about in that future video as well. So that's part of the maturity levels that I talk about in some of my courses, and kind of getting that understanding of that shift. And that's a shift that starts to happen when you get into a more mature stage in life. You start to handle your responsibilities, but start to do it not so rigidly. You start to allow yourself to go out more seamlessly. It's not as much of a push and pull. It's more of an obvious, like, I know what I need to do. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go experience things. I'm going to go try something new. You have enough awareness of your intuition that you can deploy it at any time. Whereas in your 20s, when you're starting to develop it, you have a little bit more of a push and pull. Maybe you call yourself lazy or unfocused, or have any of those assessments of yourself that can be kind of more of a negative assessment of yourself because you're just changing, and you're growing. So that's kind of describing the youth and mature aspect of it. And I'm going to go back to the drama and empowerment of it. So the drama and empowerment aspect can happen at either stage. You can be young or mature in terms of age, in terms of your human development. But the drama or empowered side is really about that codependency that I started to talk about before. So when you're in a drama state, you're typically more in a blaming state of mind. You're more in the unhealthy space that I talked about in that previous video about health and unhealth. You're seeing other people as villains, or you're seeing yourself as the hero, or you're trying to constantly help people by a means of proving your superiority over them, or you're trying to villainize people and trying to be hurtful or trying to be trolling people, or perhaps you feel like you're the victim and everything is happening to you. Everything is someone else's problem or someone else's fault. And you're just passively ignoring life and not participating in existence. Everything that is a part of you is dependent on someone else's actions. So the empowerment side is a shift to getting into more of a detached, but still related, but detached state and relationship to other people. So it's no longer about this sort of antagonism aspect of community or connection, but it's more about empowerment, meaning personal responsibility, meaning that you are more responsive versus reactive. So in the drama place, you're a little bit more reactive to people. You're maybe acting more unconsciously, whereas in the empowered state, you're acting a little bit more consciously. You are making choices that are indicative and reflective of your values. You take more time to assess how to respond. When there's a problem, perhaps you go forward towards the problem itself, and not antagonize people along the way. You become, from a victim, you turn into a creator, and you start to stand up for yourself. You start to make choices for yourself. You start to realize that you are someone that is capable. And then if you're typically a villain, you may transform into a challenger. And a challenger is someone who is, you can be assertive, you can be pushy, but how your ability to have power over someone is not representative of your value related to yourself. So you have more of a context in which you can actually challenge someone. You can throw obstacles at someone who is asking for it, not someone who, not just creating problems for the sake of it. But if someone has a truth that needs calibrating and they ask you for your help, you can challenge them. And but what they do with it is not indicative of your value, right? So, or whether or not you win, it is not relevant, right? You're just a person that has a skill, has an ability, and you are able to look at someone who is training a similar ability. What I do with a lot of INTPs is I challenge INTPs to push yourself a little bit, to get out of your comfort zones, to get out of your shell, and try to speak up, try to share ideas, try to build your own business, or try to build relationships and try to get out of that comfort space. I challenge INTPs all the time. But whether or not you improve individually is not really my problem. That's your problem, right? I'm here to help you. I'm here to support you when you need it, but it does not affect my sense of self, whether or not you do what I ask you to do, right? So that's really more of the empowered space. And then the hero, which is typically creating a codependence, sort of over someone, saying like, you are weak, therefore I will help you. The hero transforms into the coach, and the coach is someone that is very similar to the challenger, able to push someone, but it's more of a cheerleader, someone that's in your corner. But if the person doesn't succeed, it may feel like, you may feel bad, you may feel some guilt, but it's not, their success is not, I'm not dependent on their success, right? So if I have a client, a coaching client, and we help them calibrate their personality type, or I help them with relationship issues, I will check in with them, see if they're okay, see how things are going, but I'm not bothered by it every second of every day. Whether or not they improve their relationship, whether or not they stay with their marriage, whether or not they keep their job, that's not up to me, because there are so many variables about them and their responsibilities and how much they have control over their lives that it's not entangled with me. I have my own problems. I have my own life, my own things. So it's not about distancing. in a way that is unhealthy. I'm not trying to be dismissive, but I'm trying to be supportive, but also have my boundaries. And that's really what empowerment is. Like, you're supportive, or you can challenge someone, or you can be a creator and put stuff out there, and you're not codependent. You don't have a codependent relationship. So me as a YouTube creator, I don't have a codependent relationship with the comments that I get on this YouTube channel. You guys send me a lot of great stuff. Sometimes there's some questionable comments, and sometimes I just delete them if they're not helpful to the community, or they're trying to accuse me of being a different personality type, or I don't know, any number of things, right? It's all sorts of weird stuff that happens. But I'm aware of it, and I reply, and I try to be helpful. But if it's something that's just not helpful, I can move on, right? I'm not dependent on getting positive affirmations from you. I don't need that. I have my partner for that. I have me for that. I have my life and other things for that, right? So I'm building this for INTPs. I'm building this for myself. And, it's not a codependent relationship, right? So as an INTP, I want you to translate this -T or -A concept into maybe starting to think like, okay, am I just young? Am I just mature? Am I starting to get into maturity? Am I in a dramatic situation? Am I blaming people for things? Am I doing unhealthy things? Am I consciously or unconsciously, reacting? Or am I making conscious choices? Am I taking responsibility? Am I setting boundaries and living a more empowered life? Eckhart Tolle referred to in one of his books, he said that the closest concept there is to evil is operating unconsciously, and unconsciously to a way that you're just reacting to every situation around you. So when it comes to drama and empowerment, that's really the two main ideas. Are you being reactive, or are you being responsive? Right? The word responsibility comes from being responsive, responding to a situation. And it's simply choosing, making the choice, as opposed to saying that I don't have a choice, or that I want to ignore making a choice, or that it's someone else's problem. You can outsource things. That's one of the responses you can have. You can ask someone to help you. That's a response. Or you can just pick the thing up if you drop something on the floor and take it as like, hey, okay, I'm going to claim responsibility for this, and I'm going to pick it up. And this is between me and the object, or me and the situation. This is not about me connected to another person, and because I pick it up, it means that they didn't pick it up, and now I'm going to call my husband and be a blah, 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 or I'm going to call my wife and be like, hey, what the hell? Why didn't you pick this thing up? Why didn't you do you just do the damn thing, right? It's not an issue. You just do it. That's part of being an adult. That's part of growing up, right? So, but if you're not there yet, if you're not in that mature stage, like, that's fine. But empowerment is important. So if you're in this INTP-T stage, is that connected to being unhealthy, or are you just kind of young and you're still growing? And if you're INTP-A, are you entering a more mature stage of life? Are you empowered? Does that match up, right? So I also want to point out that these two, the drama and empowerment aspects these are not roles. These are not personality types, right? You are fluid. You move between them. In certain situations and contexts, you could be the villain. And then, you could be a challenger in a different context, or you could be a creator in a different context, or you could even be the victim in a different context. And it's kind of, you're flowing in and out of things. I talk about this in more detail in one of my courses on DOPEintp.com. It's called Press Start in Your Creative Message. And so if you're trying to start your own business, or you're trying to be a creator, a designer, you're trying to leave a job, or you're trying to make a living for yourself, this course is all about that shift from drama to empowerment, and then also assessing your story, making note of your story when you go from one place to the other, and then encapsulating that into a one sentence kind of statement that says, you know, what you do for a living. So I would encourage you to go check that out if that's something that seems interesting to you. It's Zelda themed. So I've got like the 4 swords characters that represent different personality types. I've got different Zelda characters that reference, basically I'm referencing like the hero's journey and all that stuff. It's a really good, entertaining presentation, and I think you'd enjoy it. So it's $29. If you go to DOPEintp.com, scroll down, it's towards the bottom, and it's on the right side. Go ahead and sign up for that if that sounds interesting to you. If not, that's cool. Hit like and subscribe, and for more videos like this one. If you have questions about this concept, let me know. It's called YMDE, Young, Mature, Drama, and Empowered. I'm looking at the screen and it's probably flipped, so I don't know how I actually did it, but you know, it's probably up here, right? I don't know. That's whatever. It's fine. I'm going to do another video in the future about this. If this is something that you're interested in, please let me know so you can kind of, it'll push me forward a little bit if I know that you're interested in this. And if you have other videos that you're interested in, go ahead and like those, leave comments in those. We've got a great community here, and you can do all of that. So we've got an email list that you can sign up for on the website, DOPEintp.com. And if you do that, you'll get access to our Mighty Networks and, you know, be a part of a deeper inner circle community there as well. So I appreciate you. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll catch you next time on DOPEamine. See ya.